The late summer sun of 1978 was setting over the rugged Ozark Mountains of Missouri, casting long shadows through the dense forest. The air was cool and crisp, filled with the scent of pine and the distant sound of a babbling creek. It was the perfect setting for a camping trip, and young couple Matt and Lisa had eagerly planned their weekend escape into the wilderness. Little did they know, this trip would be anything but idyllic. After a long drive, Matt and Lisa finally found the perfect spot to set up their camp. It was a small clearing surrounded by towering trees, with a breathtaking view of the mountains. As Matt pitched the tent, Lisa gathered firewood, both of them chatting excitedly about the adventure ahead. "This place is amazing," Lisa said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I can't wait to explore tomorrow." "Me too," Matt replied, smiling as he hammered the last stake into the ground. "This is going to be a weekend to remember." As the sun dipped below the horizon, they built a fire and settled down for the evening. They cooked hot dogs over the open flames, laughed, and talked about their future together. The sky above was a blanket of stars, and everything felt perfect. But as the night grew darker, an eerie silence settled over the forest. The usual sounds of wildlife seemed to vanish, leaving only the crackling of the fire and the occasional rustle of leaves. Lisa noticed it first, a sense of unease creeping over her. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, glancing around nervously. "Hear what?" Matt asked, looking up from the fire. "Exactly," Lisa replied, her voice trembling. "It's too quiet." Matt listened for a moment, his brow furrowing. "You're right. It's strange. Maybe the animals adjust. I don't know, settling in for the night?" Lisa nodded, but the uneasy feeling persisted. She couldn't shake the sensation that they were being watched. As they prepared to climb into their tent, she kept glancing over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the darkness. Inside the tent, they huddled together for warmth. The fire outside cast flickering shadows on the tent walls, and the silence was almost deafening. Just as they were beginning to drift off to sleep, a faint scratching sound broke the stillness. Lisa's eyes snapped open, her heart racing. "Matt, did you hear that?" she whispered urgently. Matt listened intently, and there it was again, a soft, scraping sound, like claws against fabric. He sat up, trying to peer through the tent's mesh window, but the darkness outside was impenetrable. "Stay here," he whispered to Lisa, grabbing a flashlight and unzipping the tent. He stepped outside cautiously, the beam of light cutting through the night. He scanned the area, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. The fire had died down to glowing embers, casting an eerie red light. "It's probably just an animal," Matt said, trying to reassure himself as much as Lisa. He turned to go back into the tent when he heard it, a low, guttural growl, followed by the unmistakable sound of something moving swiftly through the underbrush. Lisa's scream pierced the night, and Matt spun around, his flashlight catching a glimpse of something pale and gaunt slinking just beyond the reach of the light. His heart pounded in his chest as he stumbled back into the tent, zipping it up quickly. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice shaking. "What was it?" Lisa asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Matt replied, grabbing his backpack and pulling out a hunting knife. "But we're not sticking around to find out." They hurriedly packed up their essentials, their hands trembling. The scratching sound grew louder, more insistent, as whatever it was circled the tent. Matt took a deep breath, unzipped the tent, and they burst out into the night, running for their lives. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees looming like dark sentinels. Matt kept the flashlight trained ahead, but the beam seemed weak and ineffective against the suffocating darkness. The growls and rustling behind them grew closer, and Lisa stumbled, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Keep going," Matt urged, pulling her to her feet. "We have to reach the car." They ran through the forest, branches whipping against their faces, their footsteps pounding against the ground. The sounds of pursuit were relentless, the creature gaining on them with terrifying speed. Just when it seemed like they couldn't run any farther, they broke through the tree line and saw the glint of metal in the moonlight, their car. "Get in," Matt shouted, fumbling for the keys. They threw themselves into the car, slamming the doors shut just as a shadowy figure lunged at them from the darkness. The creature's face was hideous, with hollow eyes and a mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. Matt turned the key, the engine roaring to life. He floored the gas pedal, the tires screeching as they sped away from the nightmare. The creature's roar echoed behind them, but they didn't look back. They drove for miles, not stopping until they reached the safety of a small town. Exhausted and shaken, they checked into a motel, too terrified to return to the campsite. As they sat in the safety of the motel room, trying to process what had happened, Matt turned on the local news, hoping for some explanation. What they found instead was a chilling confirmation of their worst fears. Reports of a creature known as the Rake had been circulating in the area for decades. Sightings were rare, but those who encountered it described a pale, emaciated figure with long, claw-like fingers and a taste for terror. It was said to stalk the forests, preying on campers and hikers, its origins shrouded in mystery. Matt and Lisa looked at each other, their faces pale. They had come face to face with a legend, and they had survived. But the memories of that night would haunt them forever. The next morning, they returned to the campsite with a police escort to retrieve their belongings. The area was eerily quiet, the tent and their gear untouched. But the ground around the tent was covered in deep, claw-like marks, a chilling reminder of their close encounter. They packed up quickly and left, vowing never to return to those mountains. The experience had changed them, their love for adventure overshadowed by the terror they had faced. As they drove away from the Ozarks, Lisa reached out and took Matt's hand. "We survived," she said softly. "That's all that matters." Matt nodded, squeezing her hand. "We'll be okay," he replied, though he couldn't shake the feeling that the Rake was still out there, lurking in the shadows. Years later, they would tell their story to friends and family, a tale of survival and the unknown. But deep down, they knew the truth, that some legends are real, and some horrors never truly fade. And somewhere in the dark, dense forests of Missouri, the Rake waited, ready to strike again.